We are less than 1 week away from the start of the 2023 Summer Split LCS season. To begin, and unless the players do a complete walkout, which we should know of by this weekend, the season should start without a hitch. So without further ado, I wanted to do something kind of cool, something kind of unique compared to all the typical power rankings or previews. And I want to go through every single team, and I want to give one thing that I want to see the teams do this split. Now, this isn't really something that a lot of people maybe agree with my takes, but this is something that me as a viewer, as someone who watched every single game last split, some things that I want to see. Here's one thing from every single team. Let's go in order of how they finished in the spring split. So let's start with number 10, Dignitas, who went 3-15. I want to see them win more than 3 games this split. When you look at this roster, when you look at who's on this team, it's very clear that they are not a 3-15 team. They are a team that can compete with, I would say, at least the majority, if not half, of the rest of the LCS teams. However, they just did not get it together. So a team like this, you really expect it to be, their biggest issue is the synergy, is the practice reps with each other, learning how each other play, things like that. So I want to see Dignitas get more than 3 wins. One thing I want to see from Immortals. Immortals were pretty much as bad as Dignitas last split. They were 4-14, so only 1 extra win, and they looked bad. So one thing I do want to see from them is very much like Dignitas. I just want to see them perform better and be able to compete. If you're a fan of League of Legends, if you're a fan of the LCS, when you look at these teams that are at the bottom who get 3, 4, 5 wins a split, you don't want to see that. Even if you don't like the teams, you don't want to see that, because you want your league to be competitive, and you want it to be like close matches, and you want it to just be much more competitive as a product. So there's really not too much difference between these two teams, because they did both play really, really bad, but I'm hoping to see them play a lot better. One thing I want to see from Team Liquid, I want to see them compete a little bit harder this year. They were a team that I really don't have any memory of them playing in the spring split, so that's obviously not a good sign for them, and I did watch every single game, so clearly I watched them. There was no roster changes, so hopefully teams that don't change rosters, you would expect them to play a little bit better in the coming next split, because they have all that synergy when you look at these teams that make these huge roster changes where they're maybe going to struggle a little bit out of the gate. So I'm expecting Team Liquid to come out firing and see if they can keep it consistent throughout the season. One thing I want to see with TSM is I want them out of the league. It's already been publicly stated that they're trying to get out of the league, whether that's sell their team or buy out or have Riot buy it back. I'm not really sure what they're trying to do with their spot, but how can you root for a team that's going to publicly already say they want to leave the league? I know TSM is one of the biggest organizations worldwide, not just League of Legends, but I can't imagine they're going to have diehard fans showing up to meets if you've already said you want out of the league. And as far as how they're going to perform, they probably won't perform very well, because if they're already admitted that they want to leave the league and go to a different region, but then why are they going to pay these big bucks to keep these high players and play in the competitive scene of North American League of Legends? So I'm expecting TSM to be at the bottom of the standings come of split, but we'll have to wait and see. One thing I want to see from Golden Guardians, it's make or break, baby. It's time to shut up or time to put up. You guys did really, really good through the playoffs, through MSI. You guys proved that North America can compete, and every team has the ability to compete. You were the 6th seed going into the LCS playoffs, and you made it all the way to MSI, and now it's time to put up or shut up inside the league. You're gonna have to show some dominance here throughout the split. Let's not forget that they really struggled at the start of the season. Now, there were some people out there who said that they had the worst player in the league on their team. I don't agree with that at all, but they were a team that finished 9-9 at just 50%. Now, they did go on a miracle run, but it's time to make that miracle run a reality and perform and put up good numbers throughout the league. So I want to see them perform as top 4 team throughout the entire split. And speaking of put up or shut up, my one thing I want to see for Evil Geniuses is it's time for JoJo to make that next step. If you're unfamiliar with Evil Geniuses, blew up the entire team, got rid of everybody except the Phenom himself, JoJo, the mid laner, and it's time for him to take that next step from good mid laner in the LCS to an elite level mid laner in the LCS. The player who carries the team, the player who's the best, the player who never has rocky starts, the one who's just consistent. Now, he is young, and he is the bright up-and-coming face of the LCS, and I think if you build the right team, he can take over the league, not only from a popularity standpoint, but from a skill standpoint on the Rift as well. So that's what I want to see JoJo make that big step this split. Now, CLG have sold their spot. They're out. They're gone. Bye-bye. Thanks for playing. Now, NRG steps in. One thing I want to see from NRG is just don't finish last. Don't come into the league and finish last. Don't be the worst team in the league. That's all I really got to say. One thing I want to see from 100 Thieves, I want to see this is the split where you make the decision if Double Lift is back from retirement or if he's just time to go sit down and leave. Bjergsen already left after the spring split. They had a terrible top laner, Tenacity, who's already retired because he couldn't handle the heat. And now it's time for 100 Thieves to decide if they want to be a side act or if they can actually compete in League of Legends still. I like the fact that Someday came back. I like the fact that Double Lift seems to have been playing a lot. I don't know if he's been very active on social media in between splits. I know he did some co-casts, but I'd like to imagine him deep in his cave just training and getting better and better. So I'd like to see 100 Thieves do a little bit better this year than they did this split than they did last split, and I'd like to see them be a much more competitive team, because let's not forget, although they did win something like 9 matches in a row at the end of the season, they did also go 1-8 or 1-7 in their 8 respective matches prior to that. So they had a really bad start. There was a lot of drama, a lot of gossip. I want to see all of that cool down, and I want to see 100 Thieves just go back to the good consistency that we know all 5 of these players can produce. One thing I want to see from FlyQuest, I want to see FlyQuest just dominate. For most of the season, FlyQuest was the best team above all. Prince was the best ADC for, I would say, what, 5, 6, 7 weeks of the entire split. There was nobody really close. They had a great, I mean, Impact is a historically great top laner for North America. The one puzzle piece that was missing, it seemed, for FlyQuest was their support, and they went out and got one. They got Vulcan, who's coming in here, who's looking hot, who's looking ready to play. I expect FlyQuest to be one of the top 3 teams the entire split, if not top 1. But I do think Prince needs to be a little bit more consistent. Vicola was very shaky towards the end of the split as well. So I expect them all to do well. I expect this team to really be a powerhouse. And one thing I want to see from Cloud9 is just dominance. There's no denying that these are the best 5 players put together on any team in North America right now, and I want to see them compete and just dominate every single matchup. Now, for most of the split, let's not forget that they were kind of in the middle of the top 2 teams. They weren't really at the top until the latter part of the season, until playoffs, until where it really came to shove, where push came to shove. And now I want to see them just dominate. I don't want to see them be tied for first. I want to see them have first the whole split. And that's kind of my one thing, my one take for each team coming into the 2023 LCS summer split. Let me know if you guys agree, disagree, and what is one thing from one team that you want to see. Until next video, guys, bye-bye.